Hello, everybody. We are on the 10th section on discourse. And we are going to talk about implementing person registration for actually this part. Okay, first, you should create your component with this command with the name person register. And after that, you can see your component here with the name person register. And we have two files, HTML and TypeScript files, that we are going to talk about them in this section. Okay, we have a HTML file. We first talk about it, and then uh, we talk about our TypeScript file. Okay, we have a form here, and we defined a method for submitting operation. I I'm telling to my application whenever the form is submitting, just call this method. What is this method? The submit person. The submit person just decides to insert a new person or just update a previous person. And as you see, we defined an Angular property for our form with this format. Now I'm able to access my form, my HTML form in other part of this page, just with this format. Okay, in our form, we have many inputs, and we are gonna talk about them in this section. Okay, the first input is ID. And as you know, we had ID property for our person, and here we just created an input for this. And as you see, we made it hidden because we don't need our ID property when we are inserting a new person, because the ID property is auto-generated in database. So why we made an input for the ID property? As you know, when we are gonna update a previous person, we need send his or her ID to the backend. So because of that, we create an input for the ID property and fill it when the user clicks on the edit button in our grid. And the next input is the name. It's for our name property, the person name property, and we declare an ng model for this one, so I can access this input in all part of my page. We created a binding for this input with an ng model directive, so I just bind my input to the person name that I just initialized it in the component in my service, in my person service actually. And we have some validation here, such as minimum lengths, the maximum lengths, and with the Angular directives, I just declared whenever my name input was invalid, you can show warning or show error on the page to the user. Now I just said whenever it's invalid and touched but empty, you can show the proper error. The next input is age property. It's for age property. As you see, we bind it to the person age. Actually, the person is in the person service, the service that we injected in our components, so we talk about it later. The next input is about the gender. As you remember, we had an input for our gender that the type of input was drop down list. So we create our drop down list just like this, and we bind it to the person gender. Actually, we create an ng4 to generate our options in our drop down list just like this, and we bind our um, option to the enum ID and show the text here. Okay, we will explain it more later. Just wait. We have the similar situation for our status. As you know, our status was radio buttons, and the generating radio buttons here is just somehow like the gender input and nothing else. The next input is about our personalities. Our personalities was, sorry, our personalities were some checkboxes that user could select some of them. And again, we have ng4 for our personalities here. And we did the binding here. The next input is about address input, and uh, there is nothing else. It's just like our name input. The last element here is our submit button. As you remember, we had a submit button, and we just told it that you can be disabled whenever our form that we declare it here. Now I can access my form here in the submit button. You can be disabled whenever R4 was invalid, unless you can be valid and the user can click on the submit button. Okay, now you are familiar with our HTML file. So whenever I explain the TypeScript file for you, it's gonna be completed for you, and you can understand the HTML file more than this. Okay, so go to the person registered that component.ts file and see what I have done here. Actually, as we are gonna work with the person service and the personality service, first we import them here. And after that, as you know, we are gonna work with the gender and status objects, so we import them here too. And as you are gonna work with the Angular form here, so you need to import ng form here, and actually you should submit forms module here. Then you can import the ng form here and use it in your component. Okay, we have a class with person register components. We have a constructor that we use it to inject our services, just like this. And we have two four properties. One with name genders, that it's type of number, array number, and we have a gender enums, that it's type of gender enum. The next one is statuses. It's type of number, array number, and the next one is status enums. It's type of status enum. We use these four properties to generate and use drop down list, and radio buttons, as you saw in the HTML file. And we should initialize some of our properties in the ng init method. So the first, we should get the personality service because we have a form that we should show all of personalities to user can select any of them. So at first we fetch all of our personalities. Then we should initialize our genders and statuses. As you know, we have we have a series of radio buttons and a drop down list. And as you know again, when we are gonna send the data to the backend, we cannot just send single or married, we cannot just send male or female, we just should send the ID of any of these. And for example, when you want to send the data to the backend, when you want to say my person is single, you cannot send the single text. You should send enum, you should send the number one for the status property. If you send one, it means your person is single. If you send number two, it means your person is married. So we need the IDs, we need the enums, we need the numbers. Because of this, we have genders and statuses properties here, and we just initialize it here. I said object.keys, my gender enums is type of enum, filter it, and get the get the enum number and map it to my genders property. So when my page is initializing, I have um, I have my genders as array number here, and I run my ng4 on my genders property, and I say for each gender in my genders, the value is the key, and the key is my number, my ID, my enum number, and And after that, I just show the text of enum with this format, gender enums, a key, and as you remember, my gender enums was type of gender, and with this format you can just map the enum number to the text. Okay, we have similar situation uh, for our statuses. uh, Actually I was explaining the genders. This one is for statuses. So it's just similar to the gender property. And we are gonna talk about the personality. Okay, so let's see what I have done for the personality. Just as you see, we initialize our personalities here. I just fetch the data here, and after that, I ran ng4 for my personalities here, as you see, and I created I created input and a method with name unchanged that send the personality ID to this method and the status of the checkbox, whether checked or not. And what happened when my checkbox checked or unchecked? I just defined a method with name unchanged. So let's see what's gonna do the unchanged method. It just gets a number and is checked input is type of boolean, and it just checked that or which situation and which manner it should do. And as you see, I suggest if is checked is true, it means the user checked the checkbox. You should just push the personality ID to the personality's ID property of the person in the person service. Okay, what does it mean? As you remember, we had a class with name person. In our person class, we had a property with name, personalities, IDs, which was type of array number. Okay, I just said whenever my user clicked on any of these checkboxes, you should just get the ID of that checkbox and push it to this property, as you see here. And I said whenever is checked is false, it means the user unchecked the checkbox. So you should delete that ID from my property in my person class, and just this. You are done whenever you clear my personalities ID's property of that uh, ID. Okay, and we are done with the personalities. And the last one is my submit button. As you see, I said whenever my, sorry, whenever my submit button clicks, you should just run the submit operation of my form, the which is submit person. Okay, here we just check it, which one is should do the operation, the post one or the put one. I explained it before for you. And after you done your job, you insert or update the person, you should just reset the form. I mean, whenever the user enters the information and clicks on the submit button, the form should be clear. And this command just do it for us. And nothing else. We are just done in this part. So the next section is our last section. So follow me on the next section.